Hi everybody, and welcome to class 8 of my advanced level or C1 English course. My name's Richard and I have over 20 years experience teaching English as a foreign language. Today we'll be looking at some advanced pronouns, but before we begin, let's just remind ourselves what a pronoun is. So pronouns are words that are used as substitutes for other nouns when your reader or your listener already knows which nouns you're referring to. For example, my father's a doctor and he works in the city hospital. So here in this sentence, we see that we're replacing the noun phrase my father with the subject pronoun he. Okay, so there are many types of pronouns in English. We've got subject pronouns, we've got object pronouns, we've got possessive pronouns, and many others. When you're learning English, most of these pronouns are introduced and dealt with at between beginner and intermediate level. So today in this advanced level course, we won't be looking at those basic pronouns or the basic uses of those pronouns, but instead we'll be taking a look at generic pronouns, reflexive pronouns, reciprocal pronouns, and also the differences between the use of it and their. So let's begin with generic pronouns. And the first one we have is you. So obviously you is both a subject pronoun and an object pronoun. For example, if I say you are learning English, you can either refer to one person, that is you, the person watching this video, or it could be plural, in which case it refers to everybody watching this video. However, there's another use of you, which is very common in English, and that is as a generic pronoun to refer to people in general. For example, you have to study a lot if you want to learn English. In this sentence, the pronoun you refers to people in general or everybody. So here are a few more examples of you being used as a generic pronoun. If you want to get a good job, you need to learn English. If you want to get a good job, you need to learn English. If the police ask you to pull over, you should do so immediately. If the police ask you to pull over, you should do so immediately. So pull over is a phrasal verb which means move to the side of the road and stop your vehicle. So notice in this sentence, you is the object of the first clause and the subject of the second clause. So we can use the generic pronoun you as both a subject and an object. Now, another generic pronoun we can use instead of you to talk about people in general is the pronoun one. So, for example, we could say one has to study a lot if one wants to learn English, instead of you have to study a lot if you want to learn English. Notice that we need to use the third person form of the verb has and not have with one. That is, we say one has to and not one have to. So one has to study a lot and you have to study a lot mean exactly the same thing. However, one is very formal and it's not used very often in modern spoken English. It is possible to use it in formal written English. Also note that we can't really use one as an object. For example, if the police ask one to pull over, one should do so immediately. I mean, I guess this sentence is grammatically correct, however, it just sounds ridiculously pompous and formal. So my advice would be to never use the generic pronoun one as an object. So moving on to another subject pronoun, we, which can be used to make a statement which includes the speaker and listener, or listeners or readers if you're writing. For example, we shouldn't really talk about politics or religion in English classes. We shouldn't really talk about politics or religion in English classes. So this use of we is very similar to what we saw with you as a generic pronoun. Next we have yet another subject pronoun, they, which can be used in informal English to refer to other people in general. That is, not the speaker or the listener, or refer to a group of people in authority. For example, I think they should lower taxes. So here they refers to the group of people responsible for lowering taxes, which in most countries will be the government or politicians. Another example could be they say it's never too late to learn a new language. They say it's never too late to learn a new language. So again, in this sentence, I'm referring to a group of people in general that doesn't include me or the listener. And the last group of generic pronouns I'd like to look at is they, them, and their, which can be used to refer to one person, which may be male or female, but is when we don't know the sex of the person. And here I have some examples. Could the person who left their phone in the classroom please come and collect it? Could the person who left their phone in the classroom please come and collect it? So here I'm using the possessive pronoun there, which is usually used as the third person plural, as a third person singular, because I don't know if the person who left their phone is a man or a woman. The alternative would be to say, could the person who left his or her phone in the classroom please come and collect it, which is also possible, but I think most natives would use their phone. The person who left their phone in the classroom, please come and collect it. So we can do the same thing with they, which is the subject pronoun, or them, which is the object pronoun. For example, I think if someone visits London, they should bring an umbrella, or if someone wants to learn English, I can teach them. The alternatives would be, I think if someone visits London, he or she should bring an umbrella, or if someone wants to learn English, I can teach him or her. In both cases, they and them sound more natural. So, okay, let's continue now with the reflexive pronouns, which are myself, yourself, himself, herself, itself, ourselves, and themselves. So these pronouns are used when the subject and the object are the same. For example, Mark introduced himself to his girlfriend's parents. Mark introduced himself to his girlfriend's parents. Or, I hurt myself trying to fix my father's car. We also have oneself, which functions like the generic pronoun one, and we could say, one must get oneself insured if one intends to drive. But as in the case of oneself is super formal, and it would only really be used in formal written English. Anyway, in all three of these examples, we see that the subject and the object of the verb are the same. I hurt myself, he introduced himself. The subject and the object are the same. We can also use reflexive pronouns after prepositions. For example, he was really pleased with himself. He was really pleased with himself. Here we see himself after the preposition with. Now, another use of reflexive pronouns is for emphasis. For example, we could say, I fixed the car myself. I fixed the car myself. Or, he decorated the house himself. In both cases, we're using the reflexive pronouns to emphasize that the subject, in this case I or he, performed the action without using professionals or outside help. A third use of reflexive pronouns is after the preposition by. Used like this, they mean alone. For example, I don't like eating by myself. I don't like eating by myself, which is the same as saying I don't like eating alone. Finally, let's look at the difference between reflexive pronouns and what we call reciprocal pronouns. The reciprocal pronouns are each other and one another. So here I have some examples to show the difference. John and Mark bought themselves new cell phones. So this means that John bought John or himself a new cell phone and Mark bought Mark or himself a new cell phone. Now, if we say John and Mark bought each other new cell phones, it means John bought Mark a new cell phone and Mark bought John a new cell phone. So each other is used when two people perform reciprocal actions. The other reciprocal pronoun, one another, is similar but can be used when there are more than two people. For example, all the students congratulated one another. All the students congratulated one another. So here we imagine there is a group of students in a room with each student congratulating all the other students in the room. I just better add though that I think many native speakers would say all the students congratulated each other. So I get the feeling that one another is less commonly used today. So finally, we get to the last section of today's class, which is how to use it and there. So let's look at some examples. First, we use it plus the verb be to talk about time, temperature, and distance. For example, it's 50 miles from London to Brighton. It's 50 miles from London to Brighton. It's 3 o'clock. It's 3 o'clock. It's 30 degrees Celsius. It's 30 degrees Celsius. The second use of it plus the verb be is as a preparatory subject before the adjective. For example, it's great to hear from you. Or it's nice to talk to you. This sounds better than saying to hear from you is great or to talk to you is nice. But I might add that in informal English, many people may just say great to hear from you or nice to talk to you. And finally, we have there plus the verb be plus a noun or a noun phrase, which we use to say if things are present or exist. For example, there are going to be a lot of people at the party. Or there used to be a supermarket in that street. We don't say, it used to be a supermarket in that street. We need to say, there used to be a supermarket in that street. So that brings me to the end of today's class. Thanks for watching, and I hope to be back soon with some more classes. Goodbye.